Concern among British Jews over what they see as Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn's failure to act against anti-Semitism in his own party has reached a crescendo with this, the unprecedented publication of a joint editorial on the front page of the UK's 3 Jewish community newspapers, the Jewish Chronicle, Jewish News, and Jewish Telegraph. And despite differing views on many issues, all ran the same piece, warning that a Corbyn-led government would no less than pose an existential threat to Jewish life in that country.
It went on to say there is a clear and present danger that a man with a default blindness to the Jewish community's fears, a man who has a problem seeing that hateful rhetoric aimed at Israel can easily step into anti-Semitism, could be our next prime minister. Well, for more, let's go to London and speak with journalist Jonny Gould. And Jonny, is this going to get the attention of the Labour Party leadership and maybe even Jeremy Corbyn to really understand the depth of the problem that he is facing?
It certainly caused an immediate schism between the parliamentary Labour Party, which for the very large part is at conflict with Jeremy Corbyn, and the ruling party's own National Executive Committee, the only part of the organisation that adopts the IHRA definition, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, because in September, when the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, comes back together after their summer holidays, they will vote to adopt all of the IHRA definition and therefore isolate a Labour leader who actually has a history of not really caring about much isolation.
Well, joining us in this conversation from Manchester is Paul Harris. He's group director for the Jewish Telegraph, one of those newspapers taking part in that joint publication. Paul, great to have you here with us. Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour Party, has been fielding a great deal of controversy for years. What went into the decision and the sort of urgency in doing this sort of publication now?
This was something quite random. It's what we did together was unique, not just in the annals of Jewish journalism, but I would say in the annals of British journalism. I can't imagine in history 2 newspapers, let alone 3, all producing the same leader comment on the front page, the same headline and the same image in an attempt to reinforce what we, on behalf of British Jewry, feel about the actions of a Corbyn-led Labour Party.
And Paul, let me just ask you, do you think, again, I'm going to sort of pose to you what I said to Jonny. It seems again and again, there's these expressions of outrage, but Jeremy Corbyn doesn't budge. Is there any chance that your kind of action, you think, will have impact on the man himself?
We would like to think so, but the man is so thick-skinned, it just doesn't seem to get through to him. One time we just felt he didn't get it, he didn't understand, but it now seems to be completely deliberate. He ignores the feelings of British Jewry. He continues to consort with known anti-Semites, quite happy to mix with them and befriend them. He's happy to talk to organisations like Hamas, which are prescribed by all decent governments and all decent people. And this is an absolute insult to British Jewry. He just doesn't seem to get it. Nothing seems to get through to him. We're just hoping that our concerted effort between Britain's 3 leading Jewish newspapers, for us to cooperate this way is just unique. We're rivals, but we just felt it was so important. Hopefully this message, it will be reinforced in such a way to members of the Labour Party at all levels that maybe they will try to bring more pressure on their leader, who just seems to take no notice of anybody but himself.
Jonny, the fact that this has gone on for so long and controversies come and go and internal investigations and so forth, what do you attribute that to? Why has nothing changed? Why is Jeremy Corbyn holding so firmly onto his seat?
He is an ideologue. He's an extremist, and unfortunately for the Jewish community, he is the leader of Her Majesty's opposition. Even in that description, as a member of the Privy Council, you'd hardly describe him as a monarchist. As Paul said, he is a supporter of the friends he calls Hamas and Hezbollah, prescribed terrorist groups both here and in the United States. He went out of his way to avoid an NEC meeting to meet the Emir of Qatar, who is over here, albeit Theresa May did as well. But when you consider Qatar's sponsorship of terrorism throughout the Middle East. It was rather apposite, a description of the man himself. Jewish leaders are getting together and protesting on Parliament Square. There was a Sunday afternoon in the rain outside the Labour Party headquarters. The three main Jewish newspapers in this country got together to produce a united front. What next for the Jewish community to strike against Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, let me just ask you, Paul, it's easy to put the blame on one man, Paul, but at the same time, clearly, Jeremy Corbyn, you, in your own estimation, has a chance to be the next prime minister. How concerned are you about broader trends in the UK that his rise represents?
Very, very concerned. As I've actually said in my own leader comment in tomorrow's paper, 6 months ago, had anybody said to me, and they did, that British Jews might well leave in their masses, in their droves, if Jeremy Corbyn were to get the premiership, were to become Prime Minister of the UK, I did say, definitely not. This is not France, this is not Belgium. You will not see people leaving this country. In the last 6 months, I've changed my view completely. I've heard from people who fear what Jeremy Corbyn could represent were he to lead Britain. And people, I think, will certainly leave for Israel in more numbers than I would ever have imagined if we see a Corbyn-led Labour government.
Just briefly, Paul, is there something more that you think that Theresa May's government should be doing, or is it out of their hands?
It's completely out of their hands. I don't think the British Jewish community has any problem with Theresa May and her government. We might not always agree with her views on Israel and the Palestinians, but they're entitled to that. As a newspaper, we criticise Israel when we need to. And this is where Jeremy Corbyn's rhetoric goes amiss. He completely blurs anti-Israel sentiment with anti-Semitism. The boundary, the border, has been blurred completely. And some of the pronouncements from himself and from the people around him help to foment anti-Semitism in this country. I mean, the number of people who actually have come up to my own staff and people I know and blame Jews in this country for what is happening in Israel, as if, you know, we are responsible, and this is anti-Semitism on a different level.
All right, a very important conversation. The current reality in both of your eyes in the United Kingdom.